For those of you that I haven't met before, my name is Ashley McIntyre, and I am a Florida licensed dietitian nutritionist, and I'm really excited to talk to you. Oh. Oh. No, I'm excited to talk to you guys today about nutrition specifically for Parkinson's disease. I was talking to Candace last month, and it's probably been a little over a year since I've gone through like the specifics and what science and research shows can either slow the progression of Parkinson's disease or speed it up with food and lifestyle. So I'm excited to talk to you guys about that today. For those of you that I haven't had the opportunity to meet before, again, my name is Ashley McIntyre. I'm actually from the Bradenton, Sarasota area. I grew up here, and so did my husband. We didn't meet till college. We have two young kids, 10 and 12. And we love this area, and I love being able to support my community and talk to the community about, how to use food as medicine and how it can really, change how we feel and how we function. So I always have like a little objectives and like what we're going to talk about today. Why does nutrition even matter? My company that I founded is called The Elevated Plate. So what does that really look like? How does it look to elevate our plate? A high level overview of like certain nutrients that we need. I call it my quick biochemistry lesson. I promise it won't be bad. And then certain foods to include that can really have shown to support or to slow down the progression of Parkinson's disease, and then foods to exclude, those foods that have shown to, speed up the progression of Parkinson's disease. So let's get into it. So what does like a standard American diet look like? It really looks like, unfortunately, a low intake of vegetables. When they do all of these surveys, they do all these national surveys, they'll ask about intake of fruits and vegetables. And a lot of the times, it'll allow the one piece of lettuce on your hamburger to be like a serving of vegetables. So just so that the box can be checked. So, I highly recommend, we'll talk about it further, but, vegetables are really good for you. And the majority of Americans should eat more. Standard American diet also has an increase of trans fat intake. And while it's been decreased a lot over the last, I think, 5 to 10 years because it's been limited and companies have to put it on their nutrition labels. So they've found ways to like reduce the serving size so that they don't have to post it on the label. So I think we're, eating more than we think we are. Definitely processed meat intake. So think about hot dogs and bacon and pepperoni and sausage. Those are all the processed meats. Large sugar consumption, think about just from a liquid drink perspective in general, right? So it's not usually black coffee, it's usually some sort of sugary latte or fancy Starbucks drink or soda. So lots of sugar, ultra processed foods, and then increased alcohol consumption as well. So this is, typically what a standard American diet looks like. And unfortunately, that this form of eating causes glycemic variability. So what is glycemic variability? It's when we have high peaks and low valleys in our blood sugar that's in our blood. So, when we don't eat well, balanced meals, it causes these peaks and valleys, and it creates really low level inflammation, but it's chronic low level. And if we don't balance those out over time, then, we have this chronic low grade inflammation. And this way of eating can also breed obesity. So, things that, we know are contributors to cognitive dysfunction are both, these peaks and valleys of our blood sugar and, being overweight. So things that we want to try to modify with food. So, I chose the name The Elevated Plate for my company because I think, one plate at a time, we can really elevate our health, right? So on the left is like very detailed what what we can do every day, every opportunity that we get to eat, right? It's an opportunity to eat 3 times a day, sometimes 4 or 5 if you have snacks, and how we can, elevate it. So I really recommend that, half of your plate or your smoothie or your little snack plate or your bowl, however you eat, be your non-starchy fruits and vegetables. So think lots of color there. And then the other half, definitely we need to have protein, right? To have strong, healthy bones, have strong, healthy muscles as we age and prevent muscle wasting is what it's called, sarcopenia. And then whole grains and starches, like carbohydrates are really important in these like whole grain starches forms. So think like a very dense whole wheat bread, sourdough bread, rice, quinoa, those types of things. And then your healthy fats, and really whole healthy fats. So not, butter is something that's not that hasn't been shown to be super beneficial for health. So let's think like your extra virgin olive oil or your avocado oil or avocados, nuts, nut butters. Those things are really full of lots of nutrients and micronutrients to support you. And then on the outside of the plate, we don't have enough time to discuss all of it today, but I really do feel it's not just food. I'm also trained as a health coach. So it's how much are we sleeping? Are we moving and sweating every day? Are we managing our stress? Do we have like a sense of community, which is one of the reasons I love to speak here, is because you guys are part of a community here, and it's nice to be able to connect with people going through the same thing as yourself. Do you have a purpose every day when you wake up? Is there something that you're going to do or that you're excited to go do, right? Self-love, making sure that we're, giving ourselves, those positive affirmations, and then hydration. So like I said, we can't go through all of those today. I call those the 8 pillars of health, obviously in addition to food, but there's lots of ways that we can modulate our health, from a whole perspective. So I know that the plate on the left-hand side can seem overwhelming to some people, so I try to really condense it, and I call it the critical 4. So when you're eating, a great way to stabilize your blood sugar, we talked earlier that the standard American diet has these big peaks and valleys in our blood sugar. A way to stabilize it so you just kind of have rolling hills in your blood sugar is by eating protein, fat, and fiber together. So that's not demonizing carbohydrates. I don't want you to go on a keto diet. It's just saying that when we eat enough carbohydrates, so no need to focus on it, but to make sure that we're eating protein, fat, and fiber together, that actually blunts that blood sugar spike. So if you were to eat a banana by itself versus a banana with, let's say, some peanut butter, you're going to see a totally different blood sugar spike in your blood sugar levels if you were to measure it. And then the 4th is just color, because then that way we're getting in more micronutrients, we're getting in more fruits and vegetable intake. Any questions on that? Yeah.
Sweet potatoes.
Yes.
Is that considered a whole starch?
Yeah, it is. And, it's so interesting. Blood sugar management, when I've worked with diabetic clients, it's so nuanced because it's very individual. So for whatever reason, I've worn a continual glucose monitor, which is just something that tracks my blood sugar throughout the day, right? And I get it on my phone and it tells me all my levels. No matter what, unless I only have like 2 or 3 bites, sweet potatoes just make my blood sugar go really, really high. But they might not for you. It's the individuality of it.
It has less
So,
carbs than
yeah. But yeah, so as long as we're eating like a sweet potato in its whole form and we're not adding a bunch of brown sugar or honey or, you can add some cinnamon. Cinnamon's very healthy and that can give it like that flavor. But as long as we're not adding more sugar to it, it's definitely a whole starch. Yes. Because you're eating like something that's not been processed, right? So for sure. Any other questions about this? Because this is like the meat and potatoes, if you will. Okay. So what does the research show? So this is kind of a high-level overview, and this is from the British Journal of Medicine. So neurodegenerative diseases have a growing prevalence due to the aging population, and it's estimated that by 2050, it will triplicate, reaching around 135 million people. So that is inclusive of Parkinson's. So kind of the preventative prescription would be to eat more fiber. Again, half the plate being your non-starchy fruits and vegetables. A diet high in antioxidants, you're going to get a lot of those from your non-starchy fruits and vegetables. You're also going to get them from things like green tea, high in omega-3 fatty acids. We just talked about green tea. A handful of nuts daily has been shown to be supportive. Reducing pesticide exposure, which we'll talk about later, and heavy metal exposure, and then exercise. So let's kind of get into the details. And again, I'm very science-based, if you can't tell by this slide. But I love this slide because I didn't really fully understand what an antioxidant was until I went, back to school, got my master's in nutrition, and I'm trying to figure out, I know antioxidants are good for me, but what are they actually doing, right? So look at the little picture with the emoji faces. The one on the left is like a happy, healthy cell. And the reason that it's happy and healthy is because it has balanced electrons. So everything's functioning great, no inflammation here. So when things happen, we, drink alcohol, we eat over-processed foods, we're really stressed, things that can cause cells to become free radicals, right? We either smoke or we're exposed to secondhand smoke. Those are things that can cause free radicals. And that means that this happy, healthy cell has lost an electron, and now it's unbalanced, and it's mad. It gets really angry. And then it kind of creates inflammation and kind of rummages around at a cellular level, creating damage. So what an antioxidant does is that it has an abundant amount of electrons. So I kind of equate it to Oprah on her giving challenge, where she's like, you get a car and you get a car. So this cell is an antioxidant handing out extra electrons to these mad free radicals and making them happy, healthy cells again. So we're reducing inflammation. So when you are eating antioxidants, this is what you're doing at a cellular level, and that's how it reduces inflammation in your body. Any questions here? Okay. So what the research has shown, and the reason I wanted to show you that, is the foods that we're going to talk about are antioxidants. And I wanted you to know how that works in a cellular level. But evidence-based principles, are eating whole foods to promote health and prevent and lower inflammation. So just think of whole foods in their whole form instead of things that are out of a box or a can or anything like that. So what specific foods do we want to include? We want to include lots of fiber-rich foods. The average American eats around 14 or 15 grams of fiber. For clients, I recommend around 30 for women grams of fiber a day and 40 for men. And this is due to the changes in your gut health that it can have, the positive beneficial bacteria called probiotics that you're going to be consuming through all these extra fiber-rich foods, which are your fruits and your veggies and your seeds and your nuts. So if I do have a list, I forgot to print it out, so it's not very formal, but it's just a page in the back. If you'd like to give me your name and your email, I'll send out a list of some of the highest fiber foods, but some of those being strawberries, all berries in general, apples or pears with the skin, carrots, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, and then think of all your legumes, like your chickpeas, black beans, kidney beans, quinoa, and then nuts and seeds are usually pretty high in fiber. So those are things to include that have shown to reduce the progression of Parkinson's disease. Also, eating a diet that's high in omega-3 fatty acids. So, foods that are rich in omega-3s are going to be your fatty fish, like your mackerel, salmon, oysters, sardines, and anchovies. If you're a big sardine and anchovy person, that is a really great healthy snack, very protein forward. If you get the sardines with the bones, it's very calcium supportive for those that might have osteopenia or ptosis in the audience. Flax seeds and chia seeds are really high in omega-3s, and hemp seeds too. And then other things to include in addition to all these fresh fruits and vegetables would be olive oil and coconut oil. We've talked about nuts a lot. Turmeric is a great spice or a great root to add to different vegetables. Really great when you're doing like a Asian soy dish. That's a great place to add it. And then green tea as well. So I love talking about green tea. When I took a botanicals class, which was very interesting in grad school, about certain botanicals and how they, impact your overall health. And my professor, said that there's no way you can ever drink too much green tea. Now, if you're sensitive to caffeine, it doesn't have a ton of caffeine, but if you are sensitive, I wouldn't drink it past like 3 p.m. Just, a little side note. But a systemic review supports the hypothesis that green tea is anti-inflammatory, it's an antioxidant, it's also neuroprotective. So when we think about Parkinson's disease and like protecting our brain, and it's because of its components of having just a little bit of caffeine, the polyphenols, which are, your antioxidant component, and then L-theanine, which is actually a very like calming amino acid. So it can really like calm if you're, having some anxiety or something. L-theanine is a very calming amino acid to have on board. And then nuts, like I said, a handful of nuts a day. So it was a smaller study of about 10 participants, but it not only showed improved memory function, but notable decreased depressive symptoms and reduced blood sugar levels as well. So it is associated with increased cognitive performance, and it's also anti-inflammatory and an antioxidant. So that would be something I would definitely keep on hand. And if you have issues chewing, the nuts, because they're really hard, you can always try getting nut butters. We're very lucky that nowadays they make nut butters they make pistachio butter and walnut butter and cashew butter. It's not just peanut butter and almond butter. Yes?
Mixed nuts or just peanuts?
So the research, and this wasn't specifically for Parkinson's, but it was more for neuroprotective health. Almonds are usually the top one for neuroprotective health. Peanuts are technically a legume. They're not actually a nut, which is very weird and interesting. Walnuts, I would say walnuts, cashews, but almonds are always number one. They're also the most researched, which is funny because I was listening to a podcast on, neurohealth and blueberries. And the doctor that was on the podcast said, yeah, blueberries are the ones that are mostly studied. He said, I have a feeling if you were to study blackberries or raspberries, you'd find the same neuroprotective benefits from those as well. It's just that the almonds, just like blueberries, are the ones that are most studied in research. So this is just a little caution with protein. You want to make sure to eat enough protein to support your muscle health and to support your bone health as we age. But if you're on L-DOPA, make sure to talk to your doctor about eating protein, because he or she is probably going to have some restrictions around when to eat protein with your L-DOPA and the timing of that. The stuff that I have come across is basically to eat a lower protein diet for breakfast and lunch, and then to eat a higher protein diet at dinner, just to kind of make sure that you're still getting enough L-DOPA, because it can, the higher consumption of protein can kind of block the absorption of L-DOPA, is my understanding. So make sure to have a conversation with your healthcare provider on that to make sure that you're not, inhibiting the positive benefits you could be getting from L-DOPA. So it depends on when your doctor says to take it. Different studies show different things in terms of maybe taking it, waiting a half an hour to an hour, and then eating is typically what I read. But again, I'm not the one that prescribes it, so that would be a question for your healthcare provider. It's just, I think because I'm in the nutrition space, I wanted to, make you aware that eating too much protein around your L-DOPA can interfere with it. And the data is still out. I did some research on looking at taking like an amino acid supplement, if it could prevent the adverse events of having a lower protein diet, and the data is still out on that. So I don't know that I would recommend that at this time. Yes. The protein amounts are going to be like if it's I don't know. I'm trying to think of like, so beans, for instance, if like beans, like some sort of beans, for instance, like maybe a cup of beans might have, I don't know, 8 grams of protein. It's still going to be the same protein if you ate like an ounce of meat that has 8 grams of protein, right? So it's not that it's different protein. Typically, you have to eat more quantity of vegetable or plant-based protein to get enough protein in your diet. Studies have shown it's a combination of the two that tends to lead towards beneficial health. It's hard to get enough protein, especially as we age, out of plant-based alone. But that's one of those things, like if I have a client that is only wanting to be plant-based, we can definitely work around that to get enough protein in. It's just going to be more, you're gonna have to be really focused on where you get it from. Because one of the things with aging in general, not just with Parkinson's disease, that we worry about is sarcopenia, which is the muscle wasting. And, we don't want that to happen because, once we start losing muscle, it's really hard to get it back at any age, especially as we get older. So, you do want to eat enough to sustain the muscle that you have. So usually it's a combination.
What is the notation about the gram pounds per day?
So it's just saying how much, well, for some reason, all of the studies that I looked up always do it in kilograms. So I convert it into pounds because my brain doesn't think in kilograms. But it's just for breakfast and lunch, that's about how much protein you should have. Yeah. And then having that larger protein portion at dinner. But again, I'm going to defer to your healthcare provider on when they want you to have it around the L-DOPA if you're taking L-DOPA.
A good amount of protein for a day would be based on age
And weight. Age, weight, and then if you're on L-DOPA, that would be a contributing factor. If you're not on it yet, then we don't need to worry about like restricting the protein. We would want to eat more of it. So foods that have been shown to speed up the progression of Parkinson's disease, number one, across the board, no matter what study I looked at, was canned fruits and vegetables. So, that was just like across the board. It was in every study that I looked at. They're associated with the strongest predictor of Parkinson's disease progression. So likely what has been, they think might be the reasoning there is that cans can have large amounts of bisphenol A, if I'm saying that correctly. It's the BPA that we worry about in plastic normally, but it's in the lining of these cans. So because it's well established as an endocrine disruptor, and it's also established as a neurotoxin. So that's why they think of that. So I would stay away from canned fruits and vegetables if possible. Another canned item, soda, diet, or regular, is associated with speeding up the progression of Parkinson's disease. Diet soda actually had a higher association with progression than regular, because diet has a lot of the fake sugars is what they're guessing might be the reason, specifically aspartame. And then fried foods. So fried foods are usually cooked in, like canola oil or some other seed oil. And seed oils tend to be very high in very exposed oxidation. If you do like a quick Google search for a YouTube video on how like canola oil is made, it's the way that they process it. They have to use really high heat to squeeze out the oil, and then the oil doesn't smell very good, so then they bleach it, and it's this whole process. So, that is all of those molecules end up being very high in making inflammation when we consume them. So that's why they're thinking that the fried foods would contribute to faster disease progression. If you're cooking at home and you're using an avocado oil and not using it as high heat and you're just kind of pan searing something, that would be a better way to do it if you're wanting to have like, you know, some homemade chicken fingers or whatever it is. Or you can use an air fryer and use avocado oil as well. Beef and pork, they both have a higher fat content and they slow the transit time in your gut, meaning that the food sits there longer in the GI tract. So that could be possibly why it speeds up the progression of Parkinson's disease. But they don't know, the studies that I read don't know if it's that or if it's the fact that you're eating a really high protein content when you're taking your L-DOPA. And it's interfering with the drug and its ability to, you know, help you with your symptoms. So, you know, they're not quite sure on that. The jury's still out. Dairy, whether it's ice cream, yogurt, or cheese, has been shown to speed the progression of Parkinson's disease. So you eat a lot of yummy fruits and vegetables, chicken, fish, you know, lots of poultry, eggs, lots of yummy things. Any questions on this? This is like a don't kill the messenger situation, by the way. Yes. It's just recommendations based upon studies of how much protein to eat at breakfast and lunch. So like 0.23 grams per pound per day for breakfast and lunch, and then you would have a larger dinner. That's for kilograms. The 0.23 is for pounds. But positive behaviors that, again, we're going back to slowing the progression of the disease is basically cooking at home, because anything you cook at home, you know exactly what's going into it. Excuse me. You know, going to your local farmer's market. We are lucky. I don't know, this is in Sarasota, so maybe most of you go to downtown Sarasota, or we also have a great farmer's market in Lakewood Ranch now. I actually think the one in Sarasota is a little better because it's bigger, but we have a great farmer's market to go to get local fruits and vegetables at, and then focusing on organic foods if your budget allows. So those are things that have been shown to, you know, be positive behaviors to slow the progression. So something that I talked about earlier was, you know, things that can contribute to speeding the progression is pesticides. So, you know, when we talk about organic foods, you know, you think of what's being sprayed on these conventional foods is what they call non-organic fruits and vegetables. And we want to focus, if we can, and if our budget allows, on organic fruits and vegetables, specifically, I think it's in the next slide or two. Yeah, it's in the next slide. There's a list that comes out every year. I actually don't think I've seen 2025's list yet. This is 2024's list. It's put out by the Economic Working Group, ewg.org, and they put out a list of the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. And the Clean 15 is, they've done research on all of the fruits and vegetables, and these are the ones that have the lowest amount of chemicals or pesticides on them. So let's save our money, don't buy organic, right? And then the Dirty Dozen are the ones where they've done research and they have the most, you know, pesticides on them. Typically, they're ones where we're eating the whole fruit. So typically, like on the Clean 15 would be like an avocado or a banana, because you're not eating the outside. But typically on the Dirty Dozen would be things like your leafy greens, your berries, that you're eating the whole fruit and the outside of the fruit, that tend to have higher pesticides. But I'll show you that list on the next slide. And then other things that aren't just fruits and veggies that tend to be high in pesticides is wheat. So anything that you consume that has wheat in it, try to get organic, because that's one of the most highly sprayed crops, along with oats. And then when we look at like heavy metal exposure, think on if you live in an area where there's well water, I would recommend getting it tested, see if you need a filter, or exposure to like industrial solvents. if that's fuels or glues, or if there's anything that you do as like a hobby or a job where you're exposed to things that are like lots of toxins and stuff, even being, getting your nails done every single week, right? Is there a way that we can reduce that exposure a little bit? And even dry cleaning. If you wear a lot of dry cleaning clothes, I would try to, flip the script and maybe just see if you can do it at home. So this is the list I was talking about, the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. And like I said, normally by this time of year, they've already come out with the New Year's list, but this is from 2024. And it's just the ones on the Dirty Dozen side. If your budget allows, I would try to buy organic. And then the one on the Clean 15 side are the ones where just save your money, buy non-organic, and because they have the lowest pesticide exposure.
What's 13 and 14?
Sweet potatoes and watermelon?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can't see.
Oh, why has nobody told me that's there? What is that? Oh, you should have told me that a long time ago.
Okay.
I hope that didn't mess anybody's. Okay. Well, I'm glad you said something. I didn't see that. I'm sorry. Does anybody else want to take a photo? You can also get it at ewg.org if you'd like. It's the Economic Working Group. It's also a great site if you're wanting to reduce your toxin exposure in general. They have a list of clean sunscreens, and then they have a deep skincare database is I think what it's called, and you can put in any skincare like lotions, shampoos, conditioners in there and see, they'll kind of rate it. There's also a app called Yuka, I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's YUKA, and you can even scan barcodes with the app, and it'll kind of give a rating of what the product is that you're using skincare-wise and what they would recommend instead if it's bad, which I like because then they can at least recommend something to get instead. So supplements associated with reducing the rates of disease progression would be definitely fish oil. It is an antioxidant, which is why it's beneficial to eat salmon and anchovies and sardines. It has EPA and DHA oil in it. I would just say make sure you get it from a clean source. The oil, the way that it's packaged and sent to you, or sent to the store that you bought it from, you just want to make sure that it's not already oxidized when you buy it, meaning already like you want the anti-inflammatory effects. You want to make sure that it was taken care of properly, and that the fish and the whole process, and that it also has like third-party testing to make sure you're getting what you're paying for. The brand that I really like is called Nordic Naturals. I've done a lot of research on that brand. That's usually the only one I recommend. Nordic Naturals. And if you can, I would buy it directly from their source, like not Amazon, because Amazon has a lot of like fakes, unfortunately. Iron supplementation is actually associated with disease progression, which is why I have an X up there. So it's prone to oxidation, so prone to be inflammatory to cells, which could explain possibly why beef also contributes to the disease progression, because beef is high in iron. So just be careful, I would say, when you're either supplementing, if for some reason you're really low in iron, talk to your healthcare provider about that. Also, look at your multivitamin and make sure that it doesn't have it in there, because some multis will have iron. So I wouldn't recommend supplementing with it unless you were very deficient. And then if that's the case, you can always get an infusion or just focus on iron-rich foods too. I would say not take it unless you and your healthcare provider think that you're so deficient that you need it. Yeah, because the studies really do say it can speed up disease progression. So this is actually a slide that I did not have the first time I came and talked about, nutrition and Parkinson's disease in general, is really the stress piece. So like I said, I'm also a trained health coach. So I talk a lot about food because I'm a nutritionist, but when we look at, I do intake forms on clients, and they kind of rate their stress levels and where it's coming from. And I don't know that I've seen many clients that say they're not stressed out. But so if there's got to be a way that we manage the stress, right, on any level. And when you look at studies with Parkinson's disease, mindfulness has actually been shown. And, they did a survey of 5,000 Parkinson's disease patients, and it's been shown to improve both motor and non-motor skills. On the flip side, stress worsens these. So meditation can provide additional benefits in reducing these depression symptoms and sustaining motor, and they call it health-related quality of life improvements. So these fine motor skills. Meditation is also just a great way, or breath work, of starting some sort of stress management technique. So if you don't currently have any type of stress management technique, bless you, that you do daily, I would highly recommend trying to incorporate something, whether it's 2 or 3 minutes of breath work before you go to bed, or a 5-minute meditation. You can get them all over the internet, on YouTube. The Calm app is supposedly really good. I haven't tried it myself, but any type of behavior change that you can include that would be stress management technique would be beneficial. Studies have shown for reducing those symptoms and supporting your fine motor skills. So what questions do you guys have for me today? It's like crickets. Okay. If you want to leave your name and your email address, I can send out like the Dirty Dozen list and the high fiber foods. I think we talked about omega-3 fatty acid rich foods. I'd be happy to send those lists out. No problem. Yeah. So usually it's like your berries, your apples and pears with the skin. And then the list I have actually kind of has it in order. And the order is going to depend on which study you're looking at. But yeah, those two, and then carrots, beet, your cruciferous veggies like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, spinach, and then your like legumes, like your kidney beans, your split peas, your chickpeas, edamame, and then your nuts and your seeds really after that. Yeah. So a lot of the studies when you look at, are you okay? Okay. A lot of the studies when you look at, neuroprotective benefits from food in general I told you talked about blueberries originally. So berries in general are a great thing to have in your diet on a daily basis, not only for the neuroprotective effects, but just the high fiber. Again, Americans probably only get 14 or 15 grams of fiber a day, and it's about half of what I recommend for women and less than half for men. And that's, going back to I think it's Hippocrates that says all disease begins in the gut. So it goes back to eating lots of fiber to support our microbiome, where our probiotics, those healthy bacteria live, and to promote healthy, immune system, which promotes, health in general.
So in terms of going into the don't drink soda, how about skim milk?
I would actually have to look at skim milk I know that a cup of whole milk has 8 grams of, no, I'm thinking protein. Skim milk, I don't know how much calcium is actually in skim milk. If I'm being honest, I would have to look at it. Dairy specifically has been shown to speed up the progression of Parkinson's. Like I said, don't kill the messenger. It's just what the research showed. Yeah, those are great sources of protein. Specifically with tofu or any soy in general, I would try to get organic, because soybeans in general can be very highly sprayed with pesticides. But no, soy is a great. Soy milk doesn't have a lot of benefit to it, but like when you're talking the whole foods, like edamame or soybeans or tofu or tempeh, those are all very beneficial and great sources of protein too. Yes.
About wheat, or like wheat bread, better, supposed to be better than the white bread.
So So when you think of whole foods, the least processed, the better, and the least processed usually has the most fiber. So when you think of like white bread, it's been completely removed of all the fiber, and that's the reason that it's like white flour. It's like it's highly processed. Wheat flour, they've kept in, some of the fiber. It's not even the wheat flour that's more beneficial. It's more like the whole grain bread. So if it'll still have those seeds and like be almost like a little grainy, that'll have more fiber to it. So just more beneficial for health. And because it has more fiber, it'll probably be less spiking to your blood sugar as well. Right, so you would try to get organic. Sorry, I probably didn't answer your question at first. Yes, so the wheat crops in general are highly sprayed with what's called glyphosate, and that just has been shown to be really detrimental to health, and that we're all exposed to lots of it. So if we can reduce it in places where we can. So if your budget allows with anything with wheat, I would buy organic. And organic oats too. So I think my understanding is that organic is non-GMO, but GMO is not always organic, I think is how it works. But, non-GMO is good to purchase as well. I just don't think it means it's organic. It just means it wasn't genetically modified. Yes. It's not, I haven't read anything good or bad about it. I would just like the slide where I talked about like how to plate a meal. All fruits tend to be higher in sugar, so please don't stop eating fruit, but just try to pair it with something else that's gonna help blunt that blood sugar spike. So have some pineapple with some nuts, or have some pineapple with like, I don't know, I'm blinking right now. Like I was gonna say cottage cheese, but I'm trying not to say anything dairy related. Yogurt, a non-dairy yogurt, yeah. So, but no, pineapple is, it has fiber to it and it's a whole fruit. So I would think that it would be healthy to keep consuming. Yeah, dairy. Yeah, sorry. Yes.
Thinking about packaging of nuts, whether they're jarred, dried, roasted, or salted, unsalted,
raw nuts I think are always the best because again, that's the least processed, but raw, but that's pretty boring. So I would say nuts in general, I would just try to eat whole nuts versus I would steer, not that you can't eat peanuts, just you're going to have more of a health benefit from real nuts. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so it would be like rice, quinoa, potatoes, and then things like bread, stuff like that would be your starches. And those are fine to eat as like, let's just try to pair them with like a protein, fat, and fiber to blunt that blood sugar spike so that we don't have like that chronic low-grade inflammation at a cellular level. Hold on one second, I'm sorry, I saw her first. Not as it relates to not as it relates to Parkinson's disease. I would imagine that kefir would be very health beneficial because it's been fermented and it has all the probiotics in it. That's what I would imagine. And so I would assume that a lot of what they've looked at in these studies is just dairy in general. So if you're eating like a kefir that, you feel good about and tastes good, I don't think that would be as detrimental as like ice cream. And I'm sorry, what were you going to ask? Are you sure? Okay. Yeah.
You mentioned butter. If you have margarine, you're okay with margarine alternative? Small balance system?
I would just do regular butter. Yeah. I would try to use avocado oil or olive oil specifically, sticking to like the Mediterranean diet type thing. But if you're using a little bit of butter here and then, I don't think that's an issue. Because the other thing that we worry about with Parkinson's disease progression is we don't want you, as you get further into the disease, to lose too much weight. So they can definitely have some butter, in meals. I don't think that's going to be a huge deal as long as, it's not in every single meal in massive quantities or anything.
If you're losing weight,
Mhm.
you feel like you're losing too much weight.
Yes.
How do you bulk up in a healthy way that's going to be productive to keeping the Parkinson's at bay?
So typically you would do the flip side of what we would do for like a client that would want to lose weight. We would say you would want to cut by 500 calories a day. So with somebody that you want to try to maintain or add on, you would want to add about 500 calories a day based upon their weight and height. And I have like a lovely Excel spreadsheet that does that for me. But the easiest way to do it is by eating foods high in fat. So like think of your nuts, your nut butters is an easy one. So, when I'm talking to a client that wants to gain weight, let's add avocado to every single salad. Let's have nut butters with apples or bananas or something like that on the side as a snack. Avocado toast, like things that are high, lots of olive oil in your salad, things that, the reason I say fat is that carbs and protein have 4 grams or 4 calories per gram, whereas fat has 9. So it's just, you don't have to, you can get more calories in a smaller quantity. So I would increase your fat for sure. Yes.
How much water do you drink a day?
About half your body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 150 pounds, I would drink 75 ounces a day. And because we're in Florida and because it's summer and it's hot, I would also recommend electrolytes. And it doesn't have to be something fancy. I don't recommend Gatorade because it's so high in sugar, but you can even just add like sea salt with a squeeze of lemon to water. And that could be a way to get some more electrolytes in because we just sweat so much here. We sweat walking to our car. So